Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's our favorite time of the week because there are new knives in front of me. They're the coolest ones that have just hit our shelves. We're going to take a look at them. So let's get into it. All right, first up this week, we have got new versions of the Demko AD 20.5, now in 20 CV blade steel. Both blade shapes and the titanium, the textured titanium, as well as the smooth titanium, are back. Here you go, here they are. Prices, starting with G10 actually, we've got blue and black. Starts at about $265, carbon fiber at $280, smooth titanium at $330, and textured tie at $390. There you go, that is the price breakdown. Here is the textured titanium with the 3.2-inch clip point blade. Very stout despite its smaller size. Not super thick, but slightly on the thicker side. And a high flat grind, but not a full flat there. Designed for a little bit of strength, but still plenty usable for just day-to-day slicing. The tie feels very good. Slim handle, so speaking of a day-to-day, it's gonna be an easy knife to take with you without taking it up too much pocket space. And as you could see from the action there, the shark lock is still doing its thing. It's this little tab right up here. Looks like it may get in the way, but actually tends not to. Works well as a thumb ramp in a standard grip. And if you're trying to choke up on it, honestly, it just kind of tucks away. Even though, yes, there is something protruding there, it doesn't really bite you in any sort of way. Unlike real sharks can in certain circumstances. I also like that this is finger safe. Obviously, the blade swings closed when you pull the lock back and flick it in that closed direction, and it can do so rather quickly, so also less likely to get bit by the edge since your fingers aren't even in the way to begin with. That shark lock is also ambidextrous. Rest of the knife, pretty much there too. Dual thumb studs, blade cutout works equally left-handed or right-handed. And then the pocket clip, we have a non-reversible clip, but we do have a spare clip for the left side. The action on these things, honestly, is their major selling point. They have just this amazingly great, I was trying to think of how to describe it earlier. Just, it has like the haptic satisfaction of something like a bolt action rifle. Just that, click, click, click thing going on, and kind of do that all day. Especially on the titanium versions, it sounds extra good, but it still sounds good on these versions as well. It has that same kind of like clicky, chunky thing going on, but it's chunky in a way that's not clunky, if you know what I mean. It's still a very smooth operating thing. It's just so good. You got the clip point, as mentioned, at 3.2 inches. You've got the shark foot, their tongue-in-cheek name for the sheep's foot blade here. A bit more utility focused, a little more precise perhaps on the tip, and good for nice, powerful cuts. Really awesome. Check them out. 20 CV steel now. First time, I think, with a stainless or premium stainless with the titanium on the 20.5. I don't think we had the S35 VN with titanium earlier, if I'm remembering correctly. I may not be.
Fact check them in the comments.
Yeah, let me know. Next up, let's do a couple more premium things first before we transition to some more affordable stuff near the end of the video. This might be a little bit of a pricier video, but that's not the knife we're ready to talk about. First, the Prometheus Design Works SPD Invictus. This is a slimmer profile version of the Invictus. Price on this one with the milled carbon fiber on the front is $375. There's full titanium and G10 front version. The backside on all of those is a titanium frame lock. And as I turn it here to the back, you can see we've got MagnaCut blade steel, which, speaking of firsts, I think this is the first time we've seen MagnaCut on this model as well. I know they've done it with, actually I don't remember now. They're the Terravantium, right? Their proprietary material, as well as I want to say it was M390.
Fact check them in the comments.
I'm having all kinds of brain farts now. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've had MagnaCut. MagnaCut, if you're unfamiliar, I know I describe it a lot here on the channel, so for regulars, pardon me just a moment while I get everyone else up to speed. It is stainless. It is also very tough. It is also very high in its edge holding capabilities. All three of those traits together in any one steel with very high marks has never really happened before. Usually, the more you focus on one or two, the more the third category suffers just a little bit. MagnaCut has broken the rules to all of ours benefit, I would say. But rest of the knife, we've got a milled titanium pocket clip, almost deep carry. You've got just a little bit of thickness to the titanium there at the end, but it's pocketed into the titanium frame. Inset, the screw is actually coming from inside the frame. It is a fixed, essentially, pocket clip, even though you can remove it because, no reversibility in this case. But as such, you've got a milled clip with a very easy to use pocketing words. You know what I mean? Probably. I hope you know what I mean. As for the action, this is one of those frame locks that's maybe a little more sensitive to where you place your fingers, so keep that in mind. We do have glow-in-the-dark pips in the end of the thumb studs right there, but once you know how to go at those sets of thumb studs, it opens really easily. Blade length itself is about 3.5 inches. Man, I'm just tripping over all of my words today. Blade length itself is about 3.5 inches. You've got this spear point profile with a flat saber grind going on. A little bit of a fuller action there for extra style. Very useful shape for day-to-day stuff, even if it is primarily tactical inspired, I would say. Good, fair bit of robustness there without the blade itself being too thick. Good stuff. And with the slimmer profile of this version all taken together, it's gonna be pretty easy to pocket, I would say. Speaking of tactical, we gotta talk about this Microtech, the Socom Elite. Not often we see manual Socom, any Microtechs these days. Well, I take that back. We've been seeing a lot of the Ramlock knives come out, which are of course all manual. But for non-Ramlock manuals, it's kind of rare. And this knife right here has a legacy as being one of the most well-regarded folding tactical knives out there. Price on these right now is $336. You've got a just over 4-inch blade. In this case, as you can see on the blade, it's marked M390 steel. So good edge retention there and good thickness there to kind of back up the steel. Since it's not the toughest right out of the box, it primarily focuses on edge retention and stainlessness. The little extra thickness there will kind of mitigate the and bring back some strength to the blade shape. We have an inset liner lock. We have a tip down pocket clip. Which is more of a rarity these days, but a lot of folks for tactical uses, there's a lot to be said for a tip down pocket clip, because when you draw the knife, pull it from the pocket, the adjustment to reach your grip is less oftentimes than with a tail mounted pocket clip where you have to invert and move your grip. With a tip down, just pull up and you can kind of rotate into position and open the blade. Kind of a good thing. The handle here works really well. You've got this tapering profile that encourages you to kind of point the tip downward just a little bit. Helps bring it on target a little more easily. And of course, one of the kind of my favorite features of the knife is this wide bit of handle here acting as a thumb ramp. It gives you this, this spread out section of handle to push your thumb pressure into. So it's less sharp, less kind of bitey on your thumb when you're doing that sort of action. Very cool thing. Got them in stock right now. We've got them with the plain edge. We've got some serrated and partial serrated versions also available. Check them out while we've got them.
Which might not be long.
Which might not be long. You never know with these sorts of things, unfortunately. Next up, we've got some tops knives. This is the Tac-Raze friction folder. Comes in about $98. You've got the G10 right here. There's also a micarta option, but that micarta option is only available with the more traditional straight razor looking blade style. You can also get this black G10 with that straight razor, but kind of this recurve tanto is pretty cool, don't you think? 1095 carbon steel, Cerakoted for rust resistance and extra scratch resistance, of course. As mentioned, it is a friction folder. The tension is provided by screwing down the pivot itself, and has a very deliberate thing going on. It's not free floating, it's not swinging around on you. That said, it is non-locking. You do have a bit of safety due to this kind of finger choil handle arrangement right here. If you do have larger fingers like I tend to, the tail side of the heel right there tends to like nip in just a little bit. Feels a little bit much for me. I might knock that down if I were carrying this. If you have smaller fingers, that might not be a problem, but that's going to kind of get in the way of the blade closing when you're using the knife. Likewise, the tail here at the back, if your hand is gripped hard enough, it should provide a little bit of extra help there as well. That's that bad boy. We've got a pocket, or a belt sheath, for it. It's leather, friction fit, sticks out like so. Simple horizontal, or vertical orientation, a belt passageway there at the back. Keeps it handy until you need it. Next up, we've got another recurved blade, the Spirit Hunter X3, which, let's talk about that recurve a little bit on both of these knives. They're not super aggressive. I'd say the Tac-Raze is a little bit more scooped out than on the Spirit Hunter, but what that's gonna do is, one, in the given blade length, it adds just a little bit more sharpened edge than it would if it were just a straight line. And especially on a draw cut, it can kind of gather material to lesser or greater degrees depending on how scooped out the recurve is, but it can kind of gather material in and engage the edge at a more aggressive angle when you're pull cutting. And on a hunting and skinning blade like this especially, that can be a very nice thing indeed. This blade right here, $168 US made, 1095 Cerakoted blade, 4 3/4 inches long, straight clip point, recurve profile. What's that? 3/32 of an inch thick, we'll say. Not a super high flat grind, but pretty decently slicey overall, while maintaining strength if you need to press this into some more emergency or survival uses when out of doors. Micarta handles bolt on with black micarta liners. This is one of the Tops's, in my opinion, and to my hands at least, more comfortable handle designs. One of their kind of best options for that regard, I think. You can choke up as well if you want finer control right behind the edge, or give yourself a little extra space with the full grip on just the micarta. You do have these finger grooves going on, but they're not super aggressive. If you're not right on them, it doesn't feel super uncomfortable. You can definitely kind of hold this the wrong way and it'll still feel pretty good. And that's a good thing, I would say. The sheath is right here. It is leather, nice and thick, a little bit of weight to it actually. That should stand up well for years. Comes with a fire starter, of course. Well, not of course, but it comes with a fire starter and of course, as is so often the case, their flat emergency whistle as well. As for carry on the belt, I should mention you've got basically just this dangler attachment right here. No higher ride option for a belt pass-through on the sheath itself. And that dangler does feature a couple of snaps to make it easy to remove from your belt without removing your whole belt. Always a handy thing. Next up, we have a buck, the 663 Alpha Guide. I really like the shape of this knife. $210, 4.5 inch S35 VN blade. Love that drop point profile. Very elegant, very sleek, very strong looking too, despite the kind of sleekness to it, I would say. Thickness, we're getting closer to an 1/8 of an inch, I would say. What does the spec sheet say? 0.139, yeah, so just over an 1/8 of an inch thick. Higher flat grind, but not full flat. Again, great all-around cross-section for outdoor use. Slicey enough and strong enough to cover kind of both sides of the spectrum capably enough. Rich light handles, love that. It's kind of like a paper micarta. You get some really cool delineation of the colors here. Probably more akin to something like G10 in terms of its color separation than your standard micarta stuff. So it's really cool. Feels really good. One prominent index finger groove there. Standard grip, doesn't get in the way. Let's try some alternate grips. Chest lever grip, yeah, it kind of pokes in a little bit. It's doable, but you might have to adjust your grip a little bit. Not too bad, but it is there. Definitely worth noting. Now what they did with the kind of ricasso area here is pretty interesting. You've got kind of a kick up and back rather than like a full sharpening choil here or a more prominent guard. So it kind of bridges the gap between a more aggressive finger guard, giving you protection, and some of the like overground blades. Let's see if I have, well, for that, like that Tac-Raze, for example, where grinds all the way through into the big choil there. So you have a modicum of protection, more so, or less so than a full-size guard, but certainly more so than if the edge came all the way to your finger. So that's pretty cool. Nimbleness to this too, actually. Yeah, that's really well balanced. I really like this design as like an all-around, what's the word I'm looking for? Like outdoor whatever knife. Take it hunting, take it camping, hiking, heck, even fishing. Could be your survival knife, and I wouldn't feel too bad about that if I had this at my side. Leather sheath, retention strap, kind of classic style right here. One thing they've done, which I appreciate, Buck pays attention to this a little bit, and I've not often seen other companies do pay attention the way they do, is the actual snap placement. A lot of companies seem to have the snap placement right here on the front with the tab facing forward. And I've always kind of thought that's like the worst possible configuration to do it in, because as you're walking through the woods or through, you know, an environment, if, let's say, you were to walk past something where, and this would brush up against it and snag, guess what? It's gonna pop open your retention snap right there. At the very least, folks could have it pointing backwards a little more often, but Buck does some cool things. On this one, in fact, it is facing forward, so even less likely to kind of get in the way. They do a real good job on like their 119 specials and those as well. They kind of wrap around the backside here. So I've always appreciated that little attention to detail. Other sheath makers with snaps on your straps, up your game, please. We would all be better for it. Next, another fixed blade. Kind of another all-around kind of shape, maybe. Well, I mean, Buck obviously has strong hunting heritage, and with a name like Alpha Guide, clearly aimed into that hunting realm. But as I said, this kind of crosses over into pretty much any outdoor genre that you would like a knife that size to handle. That could do it. This knife as well kind of has an all-around vibe like that. This is the Kizer Justice II fixed blade based off the Justice folders, which I actually really like. I think they're a bit of a hidden gem these days, but you know, not as many people talk about them. Great tactical option, especially some of the sub-$100 ones. This knife right here is $59. You've got a D2 blade, 4 1/4 inches long, a little bit thicker here, maybe 5/32 of an inch thick. So you've got a good bit of durability there, because again, D2 is not a super tough steel. It is a good edge holding steel, however, especially at the price point. Drop point shape, higher flat grind, stone-washed finish is going to aid the corrosion resistance of this knife a little bit, and of course, scratches from use will hide a little bit more easily than on a satin finish. I always like that. Great profile for any outdoor type of use, I would say. Decent for just heavier fixed blade use, and of course, tactical stuff as well. The Justice series kind of leans into that. You do have a glass breaker here at the back, sort of another nod to that. The micarta is left with a rough matte finish, gives you a little bit more texture, a little bit more grip than a smoother finish. Everything, speaking of smoothness though, even though you do have this little drop here to the spine from the handle there, it doesn't quite get in the way. It doesn't feel sharp or uncomfortable. You just kind of slide over it when you push your thumb forward. Works quite well. As for the sheath on this one, really well thought out actually. It's Kydex, which, okay, great. Tons of Kydex sheaths out there, but it's the belt attachment here that really shines. You've got a J-hook style clip here, so it's easy to get on and off when you want to, but a little harder for it to slip off accidentally because of that hookedness. And it's set up for vertical carry, but by just loosening these two screws and pivoting the belt loop, you can swap it over to horizontal carry pretty darn fast. That's a cool thing. If you'd rather have something even more secure than this, I checked, yes, a large tech lock or other similar hole-spaced gear will work. And these top two holes, you'll need a little extra spacing. A small tech lock will also work. So good bit of versatility in the options right there. Next up, we've got a karambit-like knife without the karambit-like blade. This is the Boker Accomplice. $101 or $102, 3 1/4 inch D2 blade. Really, really nicely sculpted G10 handles right there. Feel really good. I mean, check out the shape, first of all. It's a very, very well considered shape. It swells in the right places. It's got a bit of that inverted egg shape going on that is just one of those kind of chef's kiss types of things. Feels great, like really great in a forward grip, in a standard karambit style grip, AKA the inverted grip, also feels very, very good. Let's talk about the sheath real quick. Someone a couple weeks ago in our Knife AQ segment, which posts on Saturdays, was asking for a pocketable karambit style knife with a more conventional blade, such as this. And while this may be a little bulky for many folks' pockets, it might be right about the upper limit. So this could be another option. You could use this in conjunction with an ulti clip to carry it inside the pocket like that. Momert's titanium clips will work well for that. Large or small tech lock hole patterns also work for that if you'd rather belt carry it. But you don't actually have to supply your own belt attachment hardware. It does come with a kind of broader J-style clip thing, similar to what we just looked at on the Kizer, but broader. So it does a similar thing. But yeah, check it out. Very useful blade shape for just everyday types of uses. Still has a little bit of kind of curvaceousness that gives it a little more sex appeal. Yeah, that's just really, really nicely done. Feels super solid, great blade shape, nice and sharp. Heck, what more could you want? And oh yeah, before I move on, last little detail, the end of the finger ring here. I would encourage you to, if you were to make use of this little extra feature, to first sheathe the knife, but even has that tiny little pry area there at the end of the pinky ring. Next up, another Boker. This is a Lucas Burnley design. This is the Kwaiken Sym, S-Y-M as in symmetrical. Lucas has essentially taken the Kwaiken design, take the bottom half of the handle, flip it for a symmetrical shape, and put a spear point dagger style blade, single-edged, on it, and you have the Kwaiken Sym. Price on this is about $219. It feels very, very good. Blade length, about 3.6 inches, 154 cm in this case. Everything all blacked out. There's some shiny bits of black, but the only things that aren't black are the edge itself, the Burnley, the Boker Plus logo, and the serial number on the flipper tab. I think that's it. Oh, and the steel markings on the back. So very, very little kind of blend into the background, quite honestly. We have a liner lock. We have all the other kind of Kwaiken greatest hits, especially some of the bolstered versions. You get G10 for the handles, and it should be, I think, titanium. Yep, titanium bolsters there. Also black. Not super shouty in its aesthetics, but a little bit extra to look at than just a simpler black finish. And the ball bearings and the flipper detent there gives you a really good action to boot. Really cool option for some kind of tactical everyday carry sort of thing. This is not so thick and so obtuse of a dagger that it wouldn't be useful for day-to-day use. Think of the top grind as essentially a big honkin' swedge that of course will remove some drag and extra friction from that spinal area, helping you move through certain cuts a little more efficiently. Really sweet. Really, really cool little design. I say little, I mean, it's a 3.6 inch blade. It's not really little. This next one is a little more little. And I'm gonna say, I think this is my favorite knife on the table today. Like, look at this thing. This is a Bestech from Ostapel, as you can see right here, and it is called the Lito, and it is a sweet, sexy little blade. $189 base price for these. Titanium handles, micarta inlays, black or natural. This is the black version. There's a blacked out version with wood inlays, and there's an all blacked out version with some not wood inlays. What is it? Let me click on the button here. Pause. With a marbled carbon fiber inlay. That one's like $195, so just a few bucks more than the standard versions. We have a deep carry wire pocket clip that is reversible. You've got the titanium frame lock there. You've got that really cool pen. It's basically like, in my mind, it's kind of like a big penknife blade. I love it. Less than 2.5 inches, M390 steel for a lot of edge retention. Super acute tip, pierces really well. All belly, gonna slice pretty decently. And I love kind of the edge angle offset to the handle right there. Lets you really put that to work despite the small handle. It kind of, sometimes that can get in the way of small knives working well. Not so here. This handle really does help you bring that edge to bear and get your hand out of the way. Dig it. As for the action, we're dealing with ball bearings here, and thumb studs pop it open like nobody's business. And you've got some jimping here. You can kind of front flip it. I kind of have to get it started and then flick it the rest of the way, but that's an option. This is way easier though. Just use the thumb studs for you people. You could slow roll it if you want, I guess. I know, it's one extra thing. I don't care necessarily about that. What I care about is just the gorgeous, gorgeous lines of this knife and the little well thought out details that mean it's going to work really, really well for such a small blade. Good job. Next up, we've got another Bestech. This is from the Bestechman line, and this is called the Goodboy. He's such a good boy. I like this knife too. $54, just under that in fact. Let me talk about that here for a second. I'm going to show you the kind of like well thought out details of this knife. It kind of really bums me out when people say, oh, you know, there's no good, like knives are way too expensive these days. Why can't there be good, like cheap knives? When the affordable knife realm nowadays has never been better. From a design and features and material standpoint, budget knives these days are fantastic. Yeah, you see more, you know, in terms of like actual new releases, more expensive stuff because they tend to be smaller runs of more expensive stuff. Cheaper stuff needs bigger runs and you wind up with fewer new releases as a result, but there's a ton of good stuff this year. Anyway, rant over. Check out the cool stuff going on with this knife. 3.5-inch blade, D2 steel, crowned spine, really nice detail to see at this price point. Not super thick, full flat grind, fantastic blade for everyday use. Enough length to do bigger jobs, the slicing geometry you want to just cut without the knife getting in its own way. If you want something like super heavy duty, this may not be it, but anything you're gonna kind of do normal day-to-day tasks, even bigger cuts are gonna work well with this. You can even see a little bit of a compound grind here at the tip. It's not super well defined. I think the coating hides it a little bit, but the tip itself is a little more robust in its geometry than the rest of the blade, so a little more strength right there. The design of the handle works great for small hands and large. It's got very pleasing lines aesthetically, at least to me. You've got a deep carry pocket clip, flush mounted screws holding it inset to the handle. I mean, details at like that and the crown spine, all the little things like that at a just over $50 price point is very good, people. It's very, very good. And you've got a button lock, a really nicely implemented button lock too. You can do the wrist flick open or closed. You've got that finger safe action. You've got the thumb studs as well if you'd rather open it that way. Really, really nice. And I know some folks sometimes worry about accidentally disengaging a button lock when in use. This one is a little more low profile, so it's a little less chance of that happening than some other designs perhaps, and it just plain works. Whether you want to carry this every day just as a standard pocket knife, whether you need a backup tactical knife, you want to take this camping, this knife. If you don't have any length restrictions where you live and you don't need a gentleman's knife or a fancy knife, you can do everything with that knife for just over 50 bucks. And they say cheap knives are no good these days. Harumph.
Not anymore.
Harumph. Next up, a not cheap knife. I really like this knife too. This is the Arcform Theory from Brian Keyes. It's a little more abstract, but yet there's still a cleanliness to the shape going on. It's streamlined would be the wrong word because it is kind of angular in its shape, but there's something clean about it too. $320 for this, however, and definitely not as cheap as the Bestech we just looked at. 3.5-inch blade, M390 steel. You got a two-tone finish, horizontal grain on the flats, and the grinds are more of almost like a blasted finish, but it might be a fine hand rubbed. I'm not sure, but a very fine texture in any case. Titanium handles, milled pocket clip with a screw mounted from the inside or possibly even the opposite side. That screw may go all the way through. I haven't taken it apart. I'm not sure 100%, but could be. And I like the subtle black accents provided on this knife. Keeps the overall thing looking pretty clean without looking plain, which is cool. Thumb studs in this case are a shape other than a circle. I'm actually not sure what the material is. I think they're metal. I don't see like a seam. If it were like an injection molded piece, we might expect to see a seam somewhere, and I don't. So I don't know. Anyway, flicking action with the thumb or with the middle finger for the reverse flick work very, very well, despite my little hiccup right there. Let's try it again. Yeah, no problems whatsoever. Can we front flip it? I've not tried until right now. Yeah, I can slow roll it, so that means someone out there could probably actually get it to flick. Since I stink at that task in general, I'm not gonna be able to do it right here. I dig it. Has a smallish feel in the hand, and what I mean by that is it has a nimbleness to it that a chunky handle doesn't, and yet look at how broad that blade is when it is open. Plenty of workability and durability in that blade. And very finely made too. Is this a Riot-made knife? It is in fact a Riot-made knife. As expected, exceptional. Next up, Fox. We have brought on all the variants now of the Vulpis series. You may remember seeing the titanium version a few weeks ago. Now we've got the full range. Prices on these. Let me sort from low to high on the price here because I forgot to do that beforehand. I apologize. Starting for single blade versions at about $33. There's aluminum and carbon fiber handle options joining the higher end titanium stuff. Carbon fiber, single blade right here, M390 on the carbon fiber versions, which is pretty darn sweet. Blade itself is about 1.75 inches, maybe just a hair over that. So coming in less than 2, very easy to open with that blade cutout there. No problems whatsoever. And lots of edge retention in a very small package as well. Little bail at the ends for attaching a split ring if you'd like. Moving up, we have blue is one of the colors. The aluminum versions are coming with an N690 blade as opposed to your M390. Let me just check to make sure. Yep. And you can get the standard blade with can opener and bottle opener, each with flathead screwdrivers on the tips. Moving up, you can get those sets of tools either with a pair of scissors or a small wood saw. Here is the green color, and you can see the pair of scissors there, similar to Victorinox style with the bent spring there, providing its springiness action, and very acute tips on these as well. And then above that, you can get the scissors and the saw together on the same tool, and we got to go for orange for one of the saw ones because, you know, orange is outdoorsy, right? But yeah, basically the whole range of colors available with all of these different tool sets, so you can pick the one you want. Good kind of alternative to some of the more compact Swiss Army knives, which sometimes have less robust tools than the more full-size ones. These compact tools have a feel of robustness to the tools that, you know, I think make them a pretty viable option, at least to compare to the Victorinox, to the Swiss Army knives. Which, I mean, they are the elephant in the room. You're going to be comparing them to them, so I'm not like spoiling anything by talking about that at the same time here. Last but not least, another Fox. This is the BlackFox Nu-Bowie. $60 or so, yeah, just under $60 for this 2.5-inch D2 clip point blade, micarta handles, very completely deep carry pocket clip right here, inset with a single flush mounted screw, and it is reversible, blockout plate there on the front. Now, if you're expecting something like this Bestechman with its centrifugally flippable blade, that's not what you're getting, at least out of the box, with this Nu-Bowie. This is a button lock, but it is a two-hand operation essentially. You're not flipping this out. I tried, and you can kind of get it going, but it's not quite set up to do that very well. Two-hand opening, get your fingers inside the nail nick right there, or essentially a long pull provided by the fullers in this case, because it has a very kind of slow not ball bearing type action. Very kind of fluid type of thing going. And same thing on the close. So keep that in mind if that's what you want. Some people don't want a flickable knife, especially some folks that might have to be dealing with certain legal entanglements. Imperial entanglements, perhaps? Anyway, it's a cool little knife. If you don't care about the flickability, you're going to be very satisfied with this knife as a compact but heavy feeling user, quite honestly. 2.5 inches is not a lot to work with, I will grant you, but there's a chunkiness to the handle that lets you get a super solid feeling grip on it, meaning you can work that 2.5 inches to within an inch of its life, if you need to, if you know what I mean. That's all we've got for this week. Thanks for sticking around. Let me know what you thought in the comments, as always. And to get your hands on any of these knives, check out the links in the description to take you to KnifeCenter.com. Don't forget about our long-running Knife Rewards program, meaning that when you pick up one of these knives today, you get to earn some free money to spend on a future one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing off. I'll see you guys at Blade Show West this very weekend. See you then.